ascent. At T-minus 60 seconds, you'll hear that Falcon 9 is in startup mode, which means that the rocket's internal flight computers have taken over the countdown. One more interesting change for this mission in particular relates to how we're using the Merlin engines. In Block 4, the engines were used with a constant chamber pressure. Because engine thrust depends on both chamber pressure and external atmospheric pressure, the engine thrust would slowly increase by up to 10 or 15,000 pounds per engine during ascent. The difference here is that for Block 5, we'll be maintaining a constant thrust of 190,000 pound force until cutoff, which means that we'll be slowly decreasing the engine's chamber pressures over time in order to compensate for the decreasing atmospheric pressure during that ascent. Again, for today's mission, we are looking to recover the first stage. This is the fully reusable version of the Block 5 rocket, at least 10 times reuse and potentially up to 100. The drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You, is currently on standby in the Atlantic Ocean, ready to catch the first stage during its descent. Bangabandhu Satellite 1 is currently looking pretty healthy. Entirely healthy, and we're excited to get that into its geostationary transfer orbit. The range is currently go, and the weather is also still looking good enough for us to launch today. At this point, we're just outside of T-minus 3 minutes, so let's listen in to the last few minutes of terminal count.
Stage 1, launch load complete. Pogo bleed verification. Strong back lower complete, 88.5 degrees. Stage 2, dump manifold secured. Stage 2 locks throttle back. Stage 2 locks load complete. Falcon 9 is on internal power. Gas closeouts is running. M1D fuel bleed complete.
AFTS ready for launch.
Over the countdown, we've had a launch abort sequence start.
It looks like just after Falcon 9 entered startup mode, it threw an abort. We're currently looking into a little more details to see if we're able to continue today's mission. If not, we'll be using our backup day tomorrow at about the same time. If you're just joining us, it appears we had an abort thrown by the vehicle just after it entered startup mode. These abort sequences are important to make sure that the Falcon 9 is in its best shape in time for any launch. So we're much happier to take those aborts beforehand rather than continue when there's any risk to the vehicle. If we have to go tomorrow, we'll be checking to see exactly what was happening through the abort today. The backup launch window opens tomorrow at 4:14 p.m. Eastern Time, or 8:14 Universal Coordinated Time, and closes at 6:21 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or Eastern Daylight Time, or 10:21 Universal Coordinated Time. Hang on for a few more moments. We're waiting for official word from the countdown net, and we'll get back to you shortly. Again, if you're just joining us, we had an abort just before our predicted launch time of 5:47 p.m. Eastern Time. These are an important part of making sure that the vehicle is healthy for launch. At this time, we are currently looking to discover the cause of the abort. We're still looking to discover the cause of the abort that Falcon 9 threw just after, or just inside T-minus 1 minute. Because so many systems respond in abort, they change to a safe state. It takes us several minutes to understand the generally single cause of that abort. The team is actively scrubbing the telemetry log as we speak.
CLD on countdown 1. Vehicle is safe. Please stand by while reviewing data.
You just heard on the countdown net. We're still reviewing the data to see if we're able to determine the cause of that abort. And you heard the launch director announce that the vehicle is safe and gave the OK for payload to go back to external power. So we're still reviewing those telemetry logs. We're not yet scrubbed for the day. We're working to bring you that information as quickly as possible. If we're able to launch today, or if we are not able to launch today, excuse me, then our backup window is at about the same time tomorrow at 4:14 p.m. Eastern Time, closing at 6:21 p.m. Eastern Time. We are still continuing to look at the data to determine if we can understand the cause of this afternoon's abort. Aborts are part of the standard process. Again, it's good to make sure that the Falcon 9 is completely ready to go, both the ground systems and the vehicle systems as well, and double checking those is vastly preferable to having any sort of a problem during flight. There's still a chance that we may be able to launch today, and we're working to see if that's going to be possible. Otherwise, we'll aim for a backup launch window tomorrow afternoon. If you're just joining us, we had an abort at the very final stages of countdown within 1 minute for a launch time of 5:47 p.m. Eastern Time. Falcon 9 threw the abort, and they're part of the standard process. We're still continuing to look at the data to conclude even if it was a ground problem or a vehicle problem. Because at T-minus 1 minute, the flight computers go into startup mode. The process of understanding that abort is a little more difficult than at other times in the countdown. So we're reviewing those telemetry logs to make sure that we're understanding it. There is still a chance that we can make it work for today's window, and we're currently exploring if that's a possibility. And if you're just joining us, you can see that it's a T-minus 15-minute clock at the moment in a yellow state, which means we're in a hold state. We threw an abort at just inside of T-minus 1 minute as Falcon 9 had taken control of the countdown. Those aborts are part of the standard process to make sure that everything is working just as we're expecting. Much better to have those sorts of signals on the ground rather than any time during ascent.
SDLD on countdown had officially scrubbed for today, preparing for a 24-hour recycle.
And we've just received final confirmation that we are standing down today due to a violation of abort criteria. The vehicle and payload are in good health. The next launch opportunity is tomorrow, May 11th. Again, if you're just joining us, we had a launch attempt at 5:47 p.m. Eastern Time. Falcon 9 threw an abort in the final minute of countdown. And it seems like we are unable to reach the launch or to launch within the launch window for today at this time. We have concluded a preliminary review, however, and have determined that the vehicle and payload are in good health, and will be aiming to launch tomorrow during our backup launch window at 4:14 p.m. Eastern Time, closing at 6:21 p.m. Eastern Time. At this point, we'll conclude the webcast. Thank you again for joining us, and we hope to see you for tomorrow's launch attempt at, again, 4:14 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you again.